You know that exact agonizing microsecond. You're sitting in the passenger seat, or maybe standing by the door holding your keys, and the person you deeply care about looks right into your eyes and says, "I love you." And suddenly, your throat completely closes up. Your brain short-circuits. It's not that you don't feel it. In fact, your chest is entirely overflowing with affection for them at that very moment. But forming those three specific words feels like trying to push a physical, heavy object out of your mouth. It feels unnatural, scripted. So you panic. You offer a tight, slightly awkward smile. You squeeze their hand twice, or worse, you mumble a clumsy "you too" or "me too," instantly feeling like a cold, unfeeling robot. Society looks at this paralysis and immediately labels you as emotionally unavailable, toxic, or broken. But you are not a broken machine failing to output the right dialogue. You are just carrying emotional depth that makes casual declarations feel incredibly cheap. Let's talk about why your silence isn't an absence of love, but actually a profound, overwhelming excess of it. If you scroll through the internet for 5 minutes, you will find a loud army of pop psychology experts eager to diagnose your hesitation. They will quickly slap you with labels like avoidant attachment, emotionally unavailable, or tell you that you have deeply rooted commitment trauma. They want you to believe that because you refuse to hit your marks and recite your lines like a trained actor in a cheap romantic comedy, your emotional hard drive must be fundamentally corrupted. But let's step away from this lazy, standardized labeling. What is actually happening in your brain is completely different. In psychology and linguistics, there is a phenomenon known as semantic satiation. It's what happens when a word is repeated so often and so casually that it entirely loses its meaning, dissolving into a hollow, empty sound. For you, the phrase "I love you" has suffered from massive cultural semantic satiation. Society uses those exact same words to describe their favorite iced coffee, a trending TV show, or a casual coworker. You don't have a deficit of feeling. You actually operate on high-fidelity emotional processing. You experience affection in such complex, intricate, high-definition layers that trying to compress all of that raw, overwhelming energy into a mass-produced 3-word script feels almost dishonest. It feels like trying to describe an exploding supernova by simply saying, "It's warm." Let's flip the paradigm entirely. Your hesitation to constantly say "I love you" is not a glitch in your emotional wiring. It is actually a highly evolved, deeply protective authenticity filter. We live in an era of performative affection. Modern culture has basically caused hyperinflation in the economy of words. Just as printing too much paper money ultimately makes the currency completely worthless, throwing around grand emotional declarations at every minor convenience fundamentally devalues the emotion itself. But you are secretly operating on the emotional gold standard. For your specific neurological architecture, love is not a simple vocalization. It is not a convenient script to be read aloud just so the other person can feel secure for the next 5 minutes. It is a heavy, undeniable physical reality. When you genuinely care for someone, the feeling actually bypasses the shallow language centers of your brain. It sinks directly into your motor cortex and your subconscious nervous system. You don't speak love, you orchestrate it. You prove it by silently moving their water glass away from the edge of the table so it doesn't fall. You prove it by remembering that hyper-specific, obscure anxiety they casually mentioned 3 months ago and naturally navigating around it. You prove it by automatically walking on the street side of the sidewalk, creating a quiet physical barrier between them and the chaos of the traffic. So when society pressures you to simply recite "I love you" on command, your entire nervous system rejects the demand. It feels violently reductive. It feels like taking a complex, breathtaking masterpiece of a painting and trying to recreate it using a single cheap, broken crown. You aren't withholding affection, you are simply refusing to cheapen it. But here is the truly fascinating part. If we look closely at the neurological architecture of highly perceptive, deeply feeling individuals, we often find a brilliant, frustrating disconnect between the amygdala, the ancient primal center where raw emotion is generated, and Broca's area, the part of your brain responsible for turning those feelings into spoken language. When you experience a massive, undeniable surge of affection, your amygdala lights up like an overloaded power grid. But because the feeling is so immense and so purely visceral, your language centers simply cannot translate the data. It is the neurological equivalent of trying to force a terabyte of raw, high-definition data through a dusty 1990s dial-up internet connection. The system simply freezes. Think about history's most profound, observant minds. Do you honestly think someone like Franz Kafka was walking around casually throwing out "I love yous" every time someone handed him a cup of coffee? Absolutely not. Kafka wrote letters that practically bled with agonizing, all-consuming devotion. But face-to-face, he was famously silent, intense, and awkward. These intellectual giants understood a fundamental truth. Spoken words are notoriously cheap. They evaporate into the thin air the exact second they leave your lips. But actions, unspoken sacrifices, the quiet, obsessive observation of the person you adore, those things create a permanent, undeniable dent in the universe. Yet, navigating the modern dating world with this specific psychological architecture is completely exhausting. We live in an incredibly anxious, validation-obsessed society. People have been conditioned by social media and superficial dating advice to constantly demand words of affirmation. Your partners often panic in the quiet spaces. If you don't verbally reassure them with the exact script they expect, they immediately assume your feelings have vanished. It is deeply frustrating to be accused of being cold or distant just because you didn't say the 3 magic words, especially when you have spent the entire week proving your unwavering devotion. You noticed their favorite snack was running low and silently replaced it before they even realized it. You memorized the exact subtle shift in their posture when they are secretly overwhelmed in a crowded room, and you quietly pulled them out of the chaos. You offer a sturdy, unshakable consistency. But in a dating culture addicted to fast verbal junk food, your slow-cooked, silent reliability is often entirely misunderstood. You are communicating in a rich, complex language of deliberate actions, and they are getting angry that you won't just hand them a cheap, mass-produced greeting card. So stop apologizing for your silence. You are not a cold, emotionally stunted statue. You are a deep, quiet well in a world entirely obsessed with shallow puddles. Your inability to casually throw around those 3 words is not a failure. It is a testament to the sheer, overwhelming gravity of what you actually feel. You are protecting the gold standard of human connection. In a society that constantly demands you perform your emotions on stage like a trained animal, choosing to prove your devotion in the quiet, unseen, everyday moments makes you dangerously authentic. Let them have their cheap, disposable words. You are dealing in the currency of undeniable action. If this made sense to you, if you finally feel seen in a loud world that constantly misunderstands your silence, then you've just found your tribe. Hit the subscribe button and stay a while. You don't have to say a word. I already know exactly why you're here.